Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I'm proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother.
Shall we play a game?
Oh.
Okay, so this game is going to be called Michael Jackson Critical Thinking. This is it says 8 science-based things that revolves around critical thinking, okay? So we're going to get into this critical thinking, but before we get into that, I want to just explain a couple things, a couple known statements that exist in the world. Is hiding in plain sight. Okay, so if you ask people, where they say the best place to hide is to hide in plain sight. That's the best place to hide, is because people underestimate. You could just think you're walking through a field of grass, but the next thing you know, there's the predator there. That's where he's hiding. He's just right there, hiding in plain sight. You don't see him. You just think, oh, this is beautiful. I'm out in the nature. I'm taking a walk. Next thing you know, rawr, he gonna get you. Because you're not aware of it. You're letting down your guards, and your senses are not equipped to be able to handle when you're in such a nice place and you're thinking you're seeing all the beauty and you don't see any danger, but the danger is right there. It's right in plain sight, right? So that's how they hide information. Which is, I say, what's going on with the Michael Jackson situation is why everybody sees that Michael and Diana had a serious relationship. Some kind of relationship was occurring there, right? But since you think Michael's part of the Jackson family, then nobody could ever think that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's mom. So they're hiding right in plain sight. And I've looked at every single video of Michael Jackson and Diana Ross in their encounters that they have. They don't ever really kiss. It's not a sexual relationship of what they're having. I've looked at them all. They're not really kissing. They're not really loving on each other in that kind of way. I've heard all of the interviews of Michael Jackson where he refers to Diana Ross as being somebody that he'd want to marry, whatever. You're hearing it the wrong way. You're misinterpreting what you're actually hearing, because you have to understand that he's having to cover up the truth. So he can't tell you the truth, and then these other things come out, and that's part of the hiding in plain sight stuff too. So then the other part of this is, when everyone thinks the same, nobody's thinking. Okay, so go ask anybody. Is Michael Jackson part of the Jackson family? Everybody thinks that, right? Everybody thinks that. Go ask people, what's the song Billie Jean about? Oh, it's about some groupies or some stalker Michael Jackson. They're basically going to be the same thing, right? They all kind of think they know. And they all think that Michael Jackson is saying the line, "The kid's not my son." Everybody thinks that, right? Everybody. Okay? So when everyone thinks the same, nobody's thinking, because you're not thinking. You just have accepted the story that's been told to you instead of actually thinking about it and having larger understanding. You've given up your ability to think, and now you've just accepted things at face value, which that's why they are so easy to hide in plain sight. So this game we're going to play is called Michael Jackson Critical Thinking. And so now look at technically my educational level. Technically, the definition of my education stuff is basically I'm a high school dropout with a 9th grade education. Okay, so that's my education level, technically, okay? Now, there's a little bit different things. There's more to explain stuff, but technically, that's a very accurate definition of my education level, okay? So, I never went through science class, and I never studied this in school, right? So, when I'm relating this to you, it's not because I went to school, and I had a good science teacher who told me about science-based theories and how to evolve your theories and stuff. Okay, I never did any of that stuff, okay? So this is just stuff I come across, and when I come across it, it's well, this is what I do. And I'm constantly challenging myself to be the best I can be, always testing my theories. I'm always looking deeper into my explanations, and that's how I've developed my story. Just first off the top is I've been doing my Michael Jackson story for over 10 years. Over 10 years, okay? So you're talking you're 360 days in the year, so 365 and shit. So just say, if you're for minimum of 3 hours a day, I think about my story. Minimum. So for 10 years, 365 days a year for 3 hours a day, you're looking at over 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours I've been thinking about this stuff. I mean, this is constantly going on. You know, which, well, I was going to mention but I forgot his name right now. But there are people that, there's a surfer, Kelly Slater. I think his name's Kelly Slater. The surfer, Kelly Slater. And I had seen him say like 10,000, I'm pretty sure he said 10,000 hours. That's what you got to put in. If you put in 10,000 hours, then you can call yourself a master. Okay? So, but me and my story, I'm still like, there's so many more questions and so many things that need to be answered. It's like, but as far as considered in a Michael Jackson world, of a Michael Jackson fan who has an understanding of who Michael Jackson really is, I would label myself as a master in that category. But I don't call myself a master because there's so much more for me to understand. There's so much more out there and stuff, right? But technically on the world of Michael Jackson fans, yeah, I'm definitely like a master in that world and stuff. So now, this first one here, I'm not going to zoom. I think you can see it clear enough and stuff. It'll come up bigger on the other stuff. So the first one here, it says, challenge all assumptions. Okay, so this is going to be, these are like eight questions or 8 things that they tell you to do if you're doing a science-based and critical thinking. Okay, so this is some scale that somebody created. I didn't create this thing. I didn't come from science class and learn this in science class, so I'm just going to give you my best interpretation of, like, and I can misinterpret things on this too, because like I said, I'm not reading it from you I'm not telling you my experience of science class and stuff. I'm telling you my experience of dealing with the Michael Jackson situation and how I relate to things in the world. And so this is stuff, when I see this, it's like, well, this is what I do. I do this stuff. I don't need to go to science class and stuff. This is what I do. Okay, so here, so we're going to do this, this is my Michael Jackson critical thinking game. Okay, that's what this is. That's what I'm going to title it. So the first thing is challenge all assumptions. Okay, so that's the Jackson family. Okay, so challenge all assumptions. Isn't it basically fair to say that all Michael Jackson's fans assume that Michael Jackson was born into the Jackson family and that he's a blood relative to all of these other people? Okay, so my game says we're doing the critical thinking game, okay? So the critical thinking game says challenge all assumptions, okay? So in challenging all assumptions, in order to play this game, you have to allow your brain, because this is a critical thinking game, you have to allow your brain to be able to challenge that assumption. You assumed that Michael, because they put it to us in the media, we know that Michael was raised in the Jackson family. They've called the Jacksons American Dream, like all this stuff, but it ends up being propaganda. So in order just to play this game, you just have to allow yourself to, like, okay, well, we got to challenge these assumptions. Are they facts? And what do we know from, like, we weren't there. We did not see Katherine Jackson give birth to Michael Jackson. Okay, we don't have that evidence. So that means we're allowed to challenge that assumption because we don't have the evidence for it. And when you actually investigate into it like I have done, you see that there's major holes. Like, just like one simple thing. Michael's got the name Michael Joseph Jackson, okay? And Katherine says that her mother gave Michael that name, gave Michael the name Michael, that she came up with the name. And then they put Joseph there. So just challenging the assumption that Katherine and Joseph are the parents, let's go by a fact. Is it logical to say that Joseph and Katherine would not have had a discussion about the name of their child before the child's born, and that the name of the child gets given to the kid at the time of birth? Like, you could say, oh, well, they would know if it's a boy or a girl. Okay, well, that's why they have discussions, and they say if it's a boy, we're going to call him this. If it's a girl, we're going to call him this. I mean, they've got lots of hours where they're in bed together in months, but while they know she's pregnant, if she's the actual mother, right? You're going to tell me, and then Joseph, Joseph's name never appeared. He's got older sons that are older than Michael, but Joseph's name never appears in any of those kids' names. So if it was of any importance to put Joseph's name on his child, of one of the sons, okay, well, they would have had that discussion prior to that, because we can see that the evidence proves that. And none of those kids has Joseph's name. There's no Joe Jackson Jr. There's no kid there with the middle name Joe. It's not there. It doesn't exist. So we're saying that we're going by, like I said, we're assuming that Katherine's the parent. Okay, but in that assumption, you're saying that you're accepting that Michael was given his name at the time of birth from Katherine's mother. So you're assuming that, but is that an actual logical assumption to go by? Because now when you actually look at it, it's like, well, that's not reasonable to believe that Joseph and Catherine wouldn't have had discussions about what the name of their child would be. And then they put the name Joseph there, which is like, is it logical to think that this kid would end up with the name Joseph when if it was of any significance to Joe, why didn't it appear on one of his previous children, you know? But when you look at it as a cover-up, that it wasn't their child. So they weren't coming up with the name. They weren't trying to come up with the name of the child because Catherine was never pregnant with Michael. So then, at the time when the kid's born, I think Diana named him Michael. And then I think Joseph and Catherine put the name Joseph in there because if it helps with to fix the cover-up. Okay, well, let's call him Michael Joseph Jackson, and then that shows like the cover-up. That shows like, why would you put the name Joseph there? Because they're covering it up that it's not their kid. And in order to cover that up, they put Joseph's name as the middle. Michael, because Diana named him Michael. So they then call him Joseph to cover it up. It fits more logically when you go, like I said, we don't just assume things. You challenge all assumptions when you're doing critical thinking. And when you challenge the assumptions based that you think that Catherine and Joseph were Michael's real parents, if you actually challenge it, you'll start to see there's holes. There's holes in their stories. I've done this. I've done critical thinking on this, okay? So the second one is suspending judgment. Now, okay, this is the one I think, I skipped over this. I have videos for all of this stuff, but the suspending judgment one, it's just suspend your judgment. I think see, I don't know exactly. Like I said, I'm not in a science class. So I think what that's saying is like, reserve your judgment until the end, until you've went through this process and you've got more facts then to base your opinion on at this time, okay? Because we're saying challenge all assumptions. We're challenging the fact that Michael was born to the Jackson family. That's what we're challenging here. So it's saying then, suspend all of your judgment. So it's saying, right now, don't give your judgment. Right now we're playing the game. Let's just play the game. Shall we play a game? You know, let's just play the game. Right now, hold your judgments until the end, until we've gone through this process. So I think that's what the suspending judgment means, okay? So then the third one says, reviving conclusions based on new evidence, okay? So then we're going to go here. So now we're reviving conclusions based on new evidence. So this is what I say is new evidence, is that, like I said, people always thought Michael was part of the Jackson family, right? But now I'm saying that we're not going to go by the assumptions anymore. We're going to go by we're playing this new game, the critical thinking game that says Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's mother. Now, based under that theory, when Diana says this, is she just joking around calling Michael her child? Because look at, Michael's there alone. There's none of the other Jacksons there. And when she identifies him as, that's my child.
We have one of them in the audience here with us.
Where?
We have Michael Jackson somewhere out there. Is he out there? Where is he? There he is. That's my child.
Hey.
That's Michael.
That's Michael. See how she said that too? That's Michael. It's like she named him Michael. That's Michael. That's my child. The kid I named Michael. The way she even said it there. That's Michael. That's like her baby, her child. She says, that's my child. And she says, we have one of them. Now, how is it possible that Michael Jackson from the Jackson family ends up being brought to sit in an audience to watch Diana Ross on this Merv Griffin's show? How does the Jackson parents, being the strong family parents and the strong-armed Joe Jackson, the way he is, right? How does he allow Michael to be put into a situation like this by himself? It's odd. It's odd. Like I said, when you don't go by the assumptions that Michael's part of the Jackson family, okay, well, let's use the one assumption, Michael's part of the Jackson family. Is it fair to assume that Joseph would allow Michael to sit in an audience by himself and be hanging around with Diana Ross, spending all this private time with Diana Ross, when Michael's the goose laying the golden eggs? So Joseph just allows her. She's got the power. So when you look at the facts, look at Diana Ross has the power to get Michael to come and be with her on her own, where he has to now sit in the crowd. Look at, he's sitting by all these old white women. Look how like out of place that is, right? And as soon as she identifies him, how does she identify him? that's my child, that's Michael, like she named him Michael. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. We got to start looking at this based upon the new evidence. The new evidence shows, if you just take it from a critical thinking and give up your assumptions, look at what she's actually saying. And does it fit the actual pattern of the known story of what it doesn't fit. So revising conclusions based on new evidence. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, I've got the evidence, and I got piles and piles of evidence to show, but I'm just doing a little for this game right now, just showing you some basic stuff, right? So we can get in your head to show you that this is real. This stuff's here. And if you actually start to think about it and challenge the assumptions of what the world you grew up in, just challenge them. Okay, this is what critical thinking is based on. And it's like, I'm not the one here that's not critically thinking. I'm not the one here stuck in the program thought of what I was raised to believe. You guys are all thinking it some way. I'm showing you a different way, and I'm showing you when you actually look at the facts, reviving conclusions based on new evidence. That's what I'm doing. I'm bringing the new evidence and saying that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's real mom. So let's revise our conclusions. Your conclusions are based upon this revised evidence of what I'm bringing, okay? So that's what we're doing here. So number 4 says, emphasizing data over beliefs. Okay? You guys have your beliefs of what you think, but now that I'm emphasizing the data. The actual data says this.
But who was your first love, though? Yeah, who was that?
You mean,
that
are you
first guy
talking
you kissed
about man,
behind?
are you talking about man love?
Oh, yeah, I should have specified that. I'm sorry.
Smokey Robinson was my first love. I really loved him.
Okay, so we're revising off of new data and stuff. Well, let me see what it actually says there. What this says, emphasizing data over beliefs. Okay, we're emphasizing data over beliefs. Now, your beliefs say that Michael is part of the Jackson family. But I've come up with the new theory saying Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's mom. So I had to find at the time that Michael Jackson was conceived, at the actual time of what Michael Jackson's conceived. So Michael's born August 29th of 1958. So Michael would be conceived in like late 57, somewhere like, getting close to 58, but before that, just a little bit. So now, the actual facts is that Smokey Robinson met Berry Gordy in August of 1957. That's where they actually meet. And at the time when Smokey Robinson meets Berry Gordy's not building a record company. Berry Gordy is still a songwriter. Smokey Robinson went for, this is data. This is actual, let's look at the data. So the data says Smokey Robinson in August of 1957 went for an audition at Brunswick Records, because Brunswick had Jackie Wilson, was Smokey Robinson's favorite artist. Okay, but this major songwriter, the primary songwriter, the guy that was actually writing the songs for Jackie Wilson, was Berry Gordy. Berry Gordy's a songwriter. He's not he doesn't own a record company. That's not what he's doing. He's still just working in the business. He's trying to figure it out. But Smokey Robinson comes in for an audition at Brunswick Studios, and Berry Gordy happened to be there that day. And he happened to witness this audition that takes place. Smokey Robinson was turned down by Brunswick Studios, but Berry Gordy, knowing, hey, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a young artist who can make his own music, and he's a songwriter, and he's young, he's right about 18. That's what Berry Gordy's looking for to build his record company. He knows what he's looking for. So Berry Gordy chases after Smokey Robinson, they introduce each other, and that's where that happens. That's where they meet. This is how, and then they start working together, and then when they start working together, you've got Berry Gordy now, he's going to produce Smokey Robinson's albums. He's going to make records for him. Berry Gordy's been learning the business, but he's not a records owner. He doesn't own the record company at that time. But he goes after Smokey Robinson. Now, in order to produce Smokey Robinson, he's going to build his own record company. This is how it all starts, okay? And that moment takes place in August of 1957. Okay, so Michael Jackson's born 1 year after that encounter. Okay, so let's look at the real world. At the time when Smokey Robinson meets Berry Gordy, and then he actually starts to make a record and they're starting to build a record company. Right at that, and then in Smokey Robinson's band is Claudette, which is Claudette. She ends up being Claudette Robinson. She ends up marrying Smokey Robinson about a year after that. She's in the Miracles, okay? So Smokey has a girlfriend. So Diana Ross, who's telling you right here that her first love, her first real love is Smokey Robinson. But so now we gotta find. Now we know that Diana Ross is in love with Smokey Robinson, but now we gotta pin down like what time frame is she talking about here? Let's pin this down about what time frame is she actually speaking about of which she's talking about being in love with him.
People think my life or my career started with Motown, but really it started with Smokey.
Right there, okay. So her life or her career started with Motown, but really it started with Smokey. So right now we know that what she's talking about and her love for Smokey is before all of the Motown stuff. It's before all of that stuff. This is what she's talking. Now listen a little bit more.
Smokey lived on Belmont. We lived on the same street. I was very close with his cousin, Sharon Burston. And I used to sleep over. You know how kids have sleepovers at Sharon's house. And I used to listen to the Miracles sing in the basement.
So right there, she just told you that her and Smokey lived on the same street, but not only does they live on the same street, she's best friends with, it's actually, she says cousin, but it's actually Smokey Robinson's niece. And Smokey Robinson's niece lives with Smokey Robinson, and because of her friendship with Sharon, that enables her to sleep over at Sharon's house. She's able to sleep over at Sharon's house. And like she says, I would sleep over and then we would listen to the Miracles playing down in the basement. So when she's telling you she's in love with Smokey Robinson, but not only is she in love with Smokey Robinson, she's literally sleeping in his house, and this is all before Motown, all before that stuff.
And that was before I came to Motown. That was before the Supremes. And to me,
before the Supremes, too. The Supremes start as the... See, I'm trying to think of the name. There's the name, because there's the band that they were the part of with the... see, I wasn't thinking about this to tell you the name. I hate when I can't. It's not coming to me. But, you know, there's the band with the guys from the Temptations, just so the people that know, I know what I'm talking about. You know, the two guys that were in the Temptations, that were in that, and they were the name, and her band was the something Etz. I just can't think of what the name is. Unless I'm missing it. Okay, but so, before the Supremes, but the band that she was in, that was the Etz, they've got some of the founding members of the Supremes are in that band. So when she's saying before the Supremes, that starts at 15 years old. She starts at that at 15. So she's talking prior to that. It's before the Supreme stuff. So what she's talking about here is occurring before that, before the Supremes. It's before all of her music stuff.
Me, I loved him because there was a time where when I first heard his record on the radio and I realized that you might be able to sing and make a record. Okay,
so Smokey Robinson's very first song, I think it's Got a Job. I think it's Got a Job is the very first song I think that he released. And that song comes out in early 1958. Okay, in early 1958, so you're talking about it's like early in her pregnancy when I'm saying that she's pregnant. The song that Smokey actually gets a song and it gets on the radio. Okay, and I think it's the Got a Job. I think that's the very first song. But so that's what she's saying. When I heard that you can actually make a song and it be on the radio, that's when she realizes that Smokey's music career thing is real. And this is what leads to her being able to give the kid away. And that's why then she gets into the Supremes after she starts making the band, and then she works her way into Motown and she does all that stuff. But now she's got that direct connection. By giving her child away, now she's directly connected to Berry Gordy and directly connected to Smokey Robinson. She's connected to them. This is like, she's got a serious connection to them. And that's why she rolls into Motown with the name The Boss. This is how she gets that name The Boss, because she rolls in there knowing that what she had done for them. You know, that she gave her child away so that these guys can make their record company.
I mean, it was like major time. So I think maybe first love of maybe with Smokey.
Okay, so when it says emphasizing data over beliefs. Now, you people think that Michael Jackson was born into the Jackson family. But when you go and look at the actual data, revolving right around the time of what Michael Jackson would have been conceived. It's like there's the data. I don't care about your beliefs. The facts show that right after Smokey Robinson met Berry Gordy, that Diana Ross was sleeping in Smokey Robinson's house. She was in love with him, and then that's at the time that Michael Jackson is conceived in the real world. And at the time where Diana Ross would have started showing her pregnancy, that's when Smokey Robinson's record comes on his first song gets actually playing on the radio, and Diana Ross now realizes, oh, this is real. They're actually doing something. So now that's what moves her to the stage to saying, well, it's not just getting pregnant by Smokey, now just having the connection to him is big enough. Let him become a big star. That's what gives the motive for her to be able to give her child away. Okay, so then the next one says, the never-ending testing of ideas. Okay, that the never-ending testing. I'm constantly testing my ideas and everything that I do. So the never-ending testing of ideas. This is the thing that's like, everybody, right here it says, Billie Jean's not my lover. Okay, she's not my lover. She's just a girl who claims that I am the one. Okay, and the next line. Okay, but the kid is not my son. So everybody, we're testing. We gotta keep the never-ending test. If you want to do critical thinking, the never-ending testing of ideas. Now, everybody says that Michael's the one saying, but the kid's not my son. Okay, so has anybody ever tested the idea that just right off the bat that's not what that line means? Nobody's tested that. Nope, everybody has just clearly accepted that Michael's the one saying the kid's not my son, and that Billie Jean has to do about something like that. That everybody's saying that Michael's the one saying, but the kid's not my son. Okay? But no, we're in the part now where we're in the never-ending testing of new ideas. So the new idea is that Billie Jean says that whole line, because the song says, Billie Jean's not my lover. She's just a girl who says, I'm the one, but the kid is not my son. The new idea that I'm putting forward is just saying that that Billie Jean says that whole line, that Billie Jean says this line, but the kid is not my son. And what I say is that at the time when you find the real evidence, you find that the Jacksons signed to Motown and they moved to LA, but they moved into Diana Ross's house. So at that time, they move into Diana Ross's house later in the song when it says, this happens much too soon, she calls me to her room. Okay, so if Diana Ross is informing Michael Jackson that she says, I'm the one, so Diana Ross says to Michael, you're the one. You're the love child of me and Smokey Robinson. You're the reason that all of your birth caused me to give you away, which allowed Motown to develop properly, but you ended up in the Jackson house. That enabled the Jackson family to develop and become the Jackson 5, all the stuff. You're the one. But then she says, but the kid is not my son. This is Diana. So this is, Michael says, this happened much too soon. She calls me to her room. Okay, so something happened. Michael said something happened too soon. She calls me to her room. Now, the facts, when you look at the actual data, Michael's staying in Diana Ross's house, and he's about 10 years old. So that fits the line. This happened much too soon. Michael's only 10 years old. She calls me to her room. She's in charge. This woman calls me to her room. To her room. You know, and they're living in Diana Ross's house. And isn't that exactly what Diana, Michael, come with me. I got something to tell you. This happens much too soon. She calls me to her room. And then she says that I'm the one. This is what she tells him. She says, I'm the one. She tells him he's a love child. But she tells him, but the kid's not my son. She also tells him, but you're officially a Jackson now, and you're going to remain with the Jackson family. They've raised you. We can't sabotage what they've done. The Jacksons have built a band who's signed to Motown. Okay, they're signed to Motown, and Diana's all hooked up with the Motown. It's all involved with the Berry Gordy. Diana Ross is having her own child by Berry Gordy at that time. You know, so they're all tied in together. With her and Smokey and Berry, they're totally tight-knit. And the Jacksons, they did that for them. You know, they took care of Michael. They built their own thing. Now they're signed to Motown. So Diana can't sabotage all that. So she tells Michael, you're the one, But in public, I'm going to not tell the world. We're not going to come out and tell the world that you're my son. And so that's what she says. And I will deny that. Like, she says her things where that's my child. That's the hiding in plain sight. But they didn't come out and say, okay, now everybody, hey, we got an announcement to make here. Just so you know that Michael's actually my son. Is the son of Diana and Smokey. They didn't come out and do that, you know. So that's what the kid is not my son is. And so that's what I'm saying. You got to keep... It says the never-ending testing of ideas. See, just test a simple idea. Like I said, test the ideas and test it to my theory and test it to the actual events that are actually out there. You'll see that my story holds up to this critical thinking. That's my story holds up. I got the real evidence. I got the real data. You people just have to test your theory. You can't keep, you got to challenge all assumptions. The rule number one, challenge all assumptions. You people got to break down that barrier before you can get into any point of critical thinking, because you people are not doing any critical thinking. You're just thinking, like I said, when the whole world thinks alike, nobody's thinking. It's like, come on, stop being slaves. That's why I keep telling you, you're slaves. That's why it's like, you guys are slaves. So the next one says, the perspective that mistakes are data. Okay, so this is what happens in my story is that I've made mistakes. And so here's one of my mistakes. This is an old video I have about the explanation of Smokey Robinson, the miracle song, Shop Around. Okay, so this is one mistake I made. The mom is telling him, oh, you don't know what you've done. You don't actually know what's going on. So she says, before you ask some girl for her hand, because Smokey's telling the mom, I got Diana pregnant. And see, the mom knows Diana Ross. Smokey Robinson and Diana Ross lived in the Brewster Douglas housing projects in Detroit. And they lived on the street Belmont. They lived just down the street from each other. They've known each other for a long time, since Diana was really young. So Smokey's mom knows exactly who Diana Ross is. It's not like just some girl. She knows exactly. So Smokey... Okay, see, now, I'm talking all about the song Shop Around being about Smokey and his mom having a conversation. I'm going to go and click it back over here so the picture's better. Okay, so when I was explaining the song Shop Around, now I still say the song Shop Around is about that, but I was saying that Smokey actually went and told his mom, hey, I got Diana down the street. I got her pregnant. And the song says, my mama told me you better shop around. Okay, so that was, I come up, like I said, challenging all assumptions, but now the perspective that mistakes are data. So at first I thought that Smokey told his mother, but then I find out that Smokey Robinson's mom died when she was 10 years old, when Smokey was 10. Okay, so that was a mistake, okay? But the mistakes are data. Now I've got this new information off of that mistake, and then that opened the door to allowing me to see a bunch of other things about Smokey Robinson and other things that were occurring, and it gave me a better understanding of like how that Sharon Burston was living in the house with Smokey because Smokey's older sister had moved into the house and stuff, right? So off of that one, because I made that Shop Around video a long time ago, like I said, but that ended up being a mistake. But through that mistake, I understood that there was still other information there that I could learn from that mistake. There's more data to research there. And that's what I did. I understood that I had made a mistake on my judgment saying that the song Shop Around was Smokey directly talking to his mother. Now the song's about this Diana thing, right? But I'd have to ask Smokey more about like, okay, well, why'd you say my mother? It's like how'd that develop actually? Because I'm not sure exactly how that developed and stuff, right? So, but through that mistake, I was then able to find a lot of, because of that mistake, it led me to more data. And so even through the mistake, and then it led me to better information so I could better clarify the whole understanding of what's going on. So mistakes are not like disasters. It's just going to open another door for you to keep thinking and start analyzing different information and stuff. Okay, so the next one says, the earnest consideration of possibilities and ideas without always accepting them. Okay, so this one here, let's go. Okay, so let me read it again because it's the earnest consideration of possibilities and ideas without always accepting them. Now, this is one of my ideas, my possibilities and ideas, is that this is a guy named Pookie Hudson, and he formed a band called the Spaniels in the early 50s. This is before Motown. And what you'll see here, it's the guy, the lead singer, with like doo-wop singers in the back, okay? So Motown is mostly based around doo-wop type of singing. There's a lot of doo-wop bands with the lead singer with a few singers in the back. So this band is a doo-wop, and that style was new in the 50s. Okay, so I'm saying that Berry Gordy, because Berry Gordy was in the music business, I'm saying that Berry Gordy would have known who Pookie Hudson was of the Spaniels. He would have known who this guy is. Okay, but Pookie Hudson, before he makes the Spaniels, Pookie Hudson is in Joe Jackson's band, the Falcons. Okay, this guy's from Gary, Indiana. And not only is he from Gary, Indiana, he was in Joe Jackson's band, where Joe Jackson was a guitar player, and but they were more like blues, you know. This is not when Joe makes the band in the movie An American Dream, because when Joe starts up with his band again in the American Dream and stuff, that's when Michael's being born. That's because now he's got the connection to Berry Gordy. Joe tries to revitalize his music career, but that doesn't work because he doesn't know Michael's got the talent, so he hasn't started to build the band. It shows more of the evidence to showing that he's now got the connection to Berry Gordy, and he starts to do his own thing because he trusts in himself. He's not trusting in Michael. Michael's a baby. He doesn't know he's got the talent and stuff. He's not doing that yet. But so when Joseph was younger and he had his band, before he's got all the kids, this guy was in Joseph's band. So one of my things that I said was that, and this is just one of the connections for Joe Jackson to be connected to Berry Gordy. I say that Joseph Jackson and Berry Gordy know each other probably from the start of when they were boxing in the Golden Gloves. Even prior to this, they were boxing. Then after that, they got into the music and stuff, to where people that were in contact with Joe Jackson became stars, like this Pookie Hudson guy, and made the band the Spaniels. And then when you go further, you find out that Chicago, Illinois, there's a record company called Chess Records. And so Joe Jackson was hanging around a lot of the artists on the Chess label, and I've got a lot of connections to Berry Gordy and the Chess record label in Chicago. There's one of the first Miracle songs is distributed under the Chess label. Like that happens. There's artists on the Chess label that Berry Gordy's still writing songs, and there's other artists that he's writing songs for that are on the Chess label. So there's a lot of connections there to the Chess records in Chicago. There's a lot of stuff, right? So I'm saying that the reason Michael ends up in the Jackson's house, I'm saying, is because Berry Gordy and Joseph Jackson know each other, and I've got a lot of evidence to back that up. But when you do critical thinking, that I can prove that there's a lot of connections between Berry Gordy and between Berry Gordy and Joseph Jackson. I can prove real connections all over the place, but I can't prove that there's not another connection. There could be some other family connection between these people, because a lot of these people got a lot of relatives and they got a lot of family members. It could be something else, okay? So even though I'm coming up with the assumption, so the earnest consideration of possibilities and ideas without always accepting them. So I'm considering all the possibilities that Joseph Jackson and Berry Gordy were old friends. I'm considering all those possibilities, and I've shown you there's a bunch of evidence to back that up. But that doesn't, it says without always accepting them. But I haven't finalized that. That's my theory and stuff, and I've got a lot of evidence to back it up, and I know that it proves that they're running around in the same circles, but there could be something else. There could be another piece of information out there that I'm not sure of. So, when I say that Michael was given to the Jacksons because Berry Gordy and Joseph Jackson are old friends, when I say that, I firmly believe that, and I've got evidence to prove that, but there could be something else. It's I'm not final on that. If something else comes my way, a better piece of information, it's I'll be willing to accept it, because I'm not totally discounting that it's my way or the highway. There could be other things there. Okay, so the other one says, looking for what others have missed. Okay? Looking for what others have missed. So, what have everybody missed? Everybody missed the truth. Everybody thought that Michael and Diana were getting it on with each other, that they love each other, that it's a man and a woman thing. They think that their relationship has something to do with that. So, but what everybody missed was that Diana Ross is actually Michael Jackson's mom. So I'm looking for what others missed. And so when you're looking for what others missed, when they see this, right now, they all see Michael and Diana together at the Oscars, right? But this is what you guys missed.
Michael, Diana, one quick minute. Tonight is a night for film. What are your plans in film coming up?
We're going to do something soon. He's going to play my son.
Right there, hiding in plain sight, she just blatantly called him her son. He's going to play my son. Which, when you're a big star like that, Diana Ross, you're not wanting to, like Michael's an adult now, right? So why would she say, oh, he's going to play my son? That would make her look old, right? And that would make her age difference between the two of them, it would make it really apparent that she's more like a mother. Okay, and then if these two, because this is 1981, so this is after The Wiz. Okay, so the rumor is that Michael and Diana had sex during the filming of The Wiz. Okay, if they had sex during the filming of The Wiz, you think she's going to come out into public and say, oh yeah, our next movie, he's going to play my son? My son? No, she would say, my next movie, he's going to play my young lover. See, if that's what she was trying to hint on, which would be much more appealing to her as being an attractive woman who's having an affair with a younger man, that's much more of appealing, okay, of what you guys were all thinking it was, but it wasn't. You got to look for the other thing. What you see here is people think, oh, it's Michael and Diana, and they're together, and they did The Wiz, and they had a relationship. No. None of that can be true, because when they come here to the Oscars, now you got to remember too, back in 1981, the Oscars, this would have been one of the most worldwide televised events that had occurred back then. This is the big deal, the Oscars and stuff, right? And then so when he says, what's your plans and movies? The first words out of her mouth, like she's not like, so she's not thinking about this stuff. Like she's not prepared to be like, oh, I have to make myself look sexy, and I gotta, if she was in a relationship with Michael, that would be the thoughts on her mind. It's like, oh, I'm gonna make myself look like a sexy older woman. And she might have said something like, oh yeah, we're gonna do another movie and he's gonna play my young lover. If that was what was on her head, because if they were in an affair and they had sex recently, then that would be the kind of words that would come out of her mouth. But that's not what comes out of her. Clearly, what comes out of her mouth instantly is, oh yeah, we're gonna do another movie and he's gonna play my son. My son. She actually says the word, my son. My son. He's going to play my son. She freaking said it. That's what I'm saying. It's like looking, what this says here is like looking for what others have missed. Everybody missed it. Everybody missed it. She just flat out said, he's my son. My son. And look at the common theme. When she first has him on the Merv Griffin, she tells the world, that's my child. There's Michael. And there he is alone. And up until this point, after they're supposed to have had an affair now, and then, but what does she relate to him? He's going to play my son. This is what's on her mind. The only thing that she knows is she's like, this is my son. This is my son. That's what's going on. You got to look for what other people have missed. That's what I've done. I'm the one here that's doing critical thinking. And when you analyze my work based upon the actual science-based chart of what critical thinking is, you'll see that my work holds up. It holds up to the most advanced science-based critical thinking chart that's out there. In the questions of what you ask, my story holds up over and over again. You guys just have to go through rule number one. Challenge all your assumptions. You assume that Billie Jean is what you think it is. You assume that Michael was part of a family. You assume that Diana Ross and Michael Jackson's had a relationship based upon that they were in love with each other, that they're having some kind of fling and stuff. You've assumed all that stuff. But I've cracked all that stuff down. I show you more evidence and break it down, and we start doing it based on critical thinking, and you'll see that my story holds up. That I'm the one doing the real investigation. I'm not the one hiding from anything or running from anything. I challenge anybody up to the most advanced music experts in the world. I'll challenge the most advanced scientific people in the world. I'll challenge the most knowledgeable people of the situation, the Jackson family. None of them are going to be able to stand up to what I'm doing. I challenge, I go to every Michael Jackson fan on YouTube. None of them. I'm not the one hiding here and trying to avoid this conversation. I'm the one constantly getting in people's faces saying, we need to have this conversation. Because when you actually look at what's going on, you see that my story is the one with the scientifically based facts and evidence to back up everything of what I'm saying.